The Orlando Magic are struggling to measure up to the playoffs, and now they have just one more chance to make their life a whole lot easier, make my life a whole lot easier. How the Magic are not just measuring up today, but also beyond on today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 13th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, how the Orlando Magic fell short once again and continue to put their playoff lives, or their postseason lives, on life support. Luckily, they still do control their own destiny. But oh boy, things are getting nervy and tight here in Orlando. We'll talk about how the Magic failed to measure up both Friday and in the bigger picture to a championship level team in the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to get to that. Plus, we're going to go through every scenario you need to know for Sunday coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Plain and simple, at this stage of the season, and I know this is very foreign to a lot of us and something we haven't covered very much on this pod, but at this stage of the season, all that matters is winning. It doesn't matter how you win. It doesn't matter how it comes. All that matters is winning. Results matter. And while I could sit here and wax poetically and say the Magic did so much better on Friday than they did Tuesday and Wednesday. If the Magic played with the effort and energy that they largely played with in Friday's game, they would have won one of the two games that they lost Tuesday and Wednesday. And we wouldn't be sitting here talking about our season being on life support. And I wouldn't be sitting here for hours after the game still trying to calm, angry fans down who think this team is choked. And maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and decide that. We'll leave postseason postmortems and postseason evaluations for the end of the year. But this is going to be kind of like that too, just like yesterday was. At the end of the day, the Magic haven't gotten the job done. And all they need is one win. They needed one win on this road trip. They needed two wins on this road trip, but they needed one after Miami lost to Dallas on Wednesday. All they needed was one win on this road trip to cinch their spot, to clinch their spot. If we want to be realistic, all the Magic need to do is win one of their next three games. They're guaranteed to have three more games this season. All they got to do is win one of their next three games, and they're going to the playoffs. Let's simplify it like crazy. But the fact of the matter is, right now, they are not doing it. The fact of the matter is, for the third straight game, Orlando gave up more than 110 points. For the second time in 3 games, they gave up 120 points. Their defense, which at least tonight I would say played with some intensity and tried to play with physicality when the refs allowed them to. Their defense, I thought, was better tonight than it was on Wednesday. Unfortunately, Philadelphia is just a really good team. Let's not pretend otherwise. If Joel Embiid did not miss 2 months of the season, I don't think anyone would be talking about the 3 seed. No offense to our friends up in New York. No offense to our friends in Cleveland. Philadelphia, with the way Milwaukee's been playing, Philadelphia would probably be the 2 seed in the East. This is a really good team. This is a championship level team. And look, the Magic's first quarter was terrible. Gave up 40 points, 7 3-pointers. Philadelphia hit 18 in the game. They shot nearly 50% from three. The Magic could not figure out how to slow down the three-point shooting. And part of me has to ask how much of that was game plan. Let's say I don't know if Jamal Mosley's game plan was the right one against Joel Embiid. I think I would have rather single covered him, said keep him on the perimeter, stay down, try and prevent him from going to the foul line. Don't let him pass and get others involved. Keep him on the perimeter where you can, but make him the scorer. I don't know. That's maybe how I would have done this. But Orlando decided they were going to double team him hard. He read those double teams really well because they were really sloppy and poorly executed. And he put some incredible passes down to get open shooters. And the open shooters made shots. Philadelphia made 18 threes, Orlando made 8. That's your ball game. And so I don't think Orlando's defense was as bad as their numbers suggest they were, but they gave up 40 points in the first quarter. When this Magic team scores 27 in a quarter, that's a quarter they've got to win. And Orlando played a generally pretty good game. Like I said, if Orlando played with the intensity and urgency and and for the most part, composure that they played throughout much of this game on Wednesday in Milwaukee or Tuesday in Houston, we probably wouldn't be talking about the play-in tournament anymore. We wouldn't be, I think, honestly. If they play like this Sunday against the Bucks, and the Bucks are going to need that win too, if they play this way Sunday against the Bucks, they're going to win. That I am confident of. Even against Dame, even if Chris Middleton played tonight against Oklahoma City, Giannis won't play, but they will win on Sunday if they play like this. I firmly believe that. They did good things. But here's the difference. The Sixers came out and punched first. Orlando needed a quarter and a half to figure out how to defend them. And the Magic closed their first quarter really poorly. It was a struggle. The Sixers look like a team that knows how to play in these kinds of games. And while Orlando, I think, played admirably and played hard, they look like a team that did not know how to approach the game from the start. And frankly, look like a team that has some very incurable flaws, for better and for worse. This team, we know this team's flawed. We're not going to sit and pretend this is a championship team. Philadelphia is a championship team. And this is the rub. This is the grand lesson of this past week, of frankly this season. Yes, Orlando has some really nice pieces. Yes, Orlando is a good team. Except for that game in Charlotte, they've taken care of their business every single night against bad teams. They dominated them. They have a defensive system that works. But the test for them is against teams like Philadelphia. At the end of the day, where the Magic are trying to go is what Philadelphia is trying to do. They're not your regular 7 seed. And so when you look at the Magic against the Sixers, well, you know they have the best player in the league. If he played enough games, Joel Embiid would be the MVP. He was my MVP vote until I was told I could no longer vote for him. I don't have an actual vote. I participate in one of the straw polls. But you watched how Embiid twisted and contorted a really good Magic defense. You watched how Tyrese Maxey was able to take that space, how Kelly Oubre stepped up, how they had shooters and attackers and guys who made plays everywhere around the floor with their star. And we're going to talk about Paolo's game here in a minute, but I thought Paolo tried really hard to do the right things. But if you look at the space that Joel Embiid had to operate and make decisions, and look at the space that Paolo Banchero had to operate and make decisions, it's night and day. The Magic had to hug the shooters because of all the shots they were making, and they made some tough ones. Paolo Banchero saw a paint that was walled off with 3 or 4 guys. Wendell Carter, who's a good shooter, or Goga Batadze, who played a lot of this game because Wendell left with back spasms, would go to the opposite side of the lane And Joel Embiid would just stand in his spot, eyeing and spying Paolo. They were not afraid of Goga Bitadze. And for all those that are like, the Magic need to play Goga, and look, I thought Goga, after some early turnovers where he looked really rough, played a generally pretty good game. The reason Wendell Carter plays is he's at least a nominal threat to shoot. Joel Embiid, or whoever is guarding him, cannot just camp out on the weak side of the floor and flood the area that Paolo's trying to drive into. If you're wondering why Paolo struggled to shoot so much, that is one of the reasons why. He had to drive straight into a brick wall, and he's had to drive straight into a brick wall for the last week and a half. He can be better, don't get me wrong, but it's really tough. And that's the difference. We know this team is flawed. We know this team needs improvements. And I know I've sat here, I've probably annoyed a lot of you who are all in on the 4 seed and all in on that. Look, I was all in on it too. I believe this team is capable of fighting. You know, they're going to end this season 2-3 games back of the 3 seed. They're going to end this season 2 games back, maybe 3 games back of the 4 seed. Like, let's be real. Next season, the expectation is to get home court advantage, to be in that fight again, to be more realistically in that fight. This crash back down to earth against 2 quality opponents. Guess what? Tough travel. But this crash back to earth these last 2 weeks have shown us this roster is not the championship roster. I think we all said this after the trade deadline, and I still think it was the right decision not to make a move at the trade deadline. I do think that's been proven true. But I think we all understood this was as far as this group goes because they need more. And guess what? Beyond trying to measure up to a championship level team, when the Magic are in the playoffs, when they're playing the Bucks, when they're playing the Cavs, when they're playing the Knicks, they've got to figure out a way to stop players that can beat their base defense. They've got to be so in tune with the details and so in tune with every little thing. And they're just not at that level yet. Philadelphia is. Milwaukee, even undermanned, is. And if the ultimate thing that this team learns this season is that there's another level they have to reach, that'll be worth it. But right now, the Magic are not measuring up. And it's frustrating, and that is frustrating to say, and that is frustrating to see. And you know, I know I seem pretty calm about it because I'm thinking big picture here. It is frustrating. I want to acknowledge the frustration that fans have. Because we thought this team was ready for something bigger than they were. They're not ready. And they're going through the growing pains right now. We're going to go through the box score real fast, and then we'll talk about all the scenarios for Sunday. There's still a chance to finish with the 5, and obviously the Magic still control their own destiny. We'll get to all of that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Stitch Fix. Look, with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Look, we all need clothes. It's almost summer, so we all got to look our best. Playoffs are coming. You got to look your best for the playoffs. So upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist who helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. You just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences. You order boxes when you want and how you want. No subscription required. They send 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. You keep what works, send back the rest. Your stylist always sends just right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like they have style ESP. You don't know how they do it, but they just get you. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. Nobody likes to shop. Malls are dead. So save the time and the effort, plus get outfits that make you look and feel really good. And if you don't love something, to send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. Turn off the screaming of the national networks and get the best analysis for your teams, for all teams around the sports world. Get the biggest news from the people who know their teams best. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories of the day. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, we're going to get a lot of information here in the next 20 minutes or so. First things first. You made it to the second segment. Congratulations. I am thinking here, it's been a while since I've done a live episode. Since we have the early game on Sunday, let's plan on doing a live recap episode. We will recap the Magic's game against the Milwaukee Bucks, begin previewing the postseason, 8 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. Go to the YouTube channel at Locked On Magic. I'll go ahead and make at least the first hour available on Twitter, on X Spaces, whatever it's called now, on my Twitter account at OMagicDaily. We'll make it a mailbag. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk all things Magic. You know, how destructive the end of the season was. Please be kind. Don't be, we'll see what the day is like. We'll figure that out. But we'll talk all things. We'll preview the upcoming matchup, all things, 8 o'clock on Sunday. Going to make that announcement here. So if you listen to this, great. We'll make that announcement later on as well. Okay. Next things next. Let's run through the final box scores. The Orlando Magic fall to the Philadelphia 76ers 125-113. Again, the difference in this game, and one of the reasons why I'm not like upset or I'm not like too despondent, I do think the Magic played a pretty good game. There are things I am not happy about. There are areas where this team needs to improve, and we'll get to some of those things here. I do like that Paolo played playoff minutes, 40 and a half minutes. But we'll talk more about him here in a moment. But I really do think Orlando played a pretty solid game. I think that if they played like this Wednesday, we would be talking after a Magic win because I didn't think they were far off from beating Milwaukee. A lot of the same, the issue in the Milwaukee game was turnovers. They gave up some threes early, but not anywhere near the level that they gave up threes here. Philadelphia made some really tough threes in that first quarter. They were able to kind of break down the Magic's zone scheme or trapping scheme on Embiid. Look, Embiid had 32 points, but 10 for 23 shooting. He was 8 for 9 from the line, 4 for 7 from 3. So he made his threes this game too. He had 13 rebounds, 7 assists. He had 5 of those assists in the first quarter. He had 4 turnovers. So for 32 points, like knowing how efficient Embiid is, I thought the Magic did a really good job. Goga Bitadze came in. Wendell Carter left the game with back spasms after about 4 minutes. Goga Bitadze came in, looked a little bit lost early on. I thought he got better as the game went on, but the Magic kind of went away from him. Jonathan Isaac, I thought, played some fantastic defense on Joel Embiid, really got under him, took some bumps from him, bothered him in his mid-post spots. Probably needed to go with Jonathan Isaac for more of this game than they did. They probably, once Carter was out, they probably needed to just bite the bullet, disrupt whatever rotations they were going with, and just say, we got to play kind of this 5-out style and run Isaac as kind of match minutes with Embiid with Isaac and just say that's our best defender. We've got to win this game. And I would say if Wendell Carter can't go on Sunday because of these back spasms, I honestly think Brook Lopez is tougher just because he's a little bit bigger, but he plays on the perimeter too. So honestly, start Jonathan Isaac, start him on Bobby Portis, start him on Chris Middleton, whatever you decide. You got Franz. You'll have Franz available, who had a really nice game too. You'll have Franz available. Put Franz on Chris Middleton. Play Jonathan Isaac on Bobby Portis and put Paolo on Brook Lopez. Kind of hide Paolo on Brook Lopez. Brook's not going in the paint very often. Like, you'll be a little bit worried about the glass, but you need your best defenders. You need your best players out there. You need to run a playoff rotation. You can't I think the Magic got closer to what we'll see as a playoff rotation, but this is not the time for experimenting with stuff. And I appreciate trying Batadze. It was the right call at the time, but once it was clear that Batadze was just not what they were looking for or what they needed, and especially since it looked like Embiid did not care where Goga Batadze was on the floor on defense, that's when you got to be like, okay, we've got to just solve this problem, figure this out. Isaac at least can make them pay a little bit from three. And look, Isaac didn't have a great shooting game. 2 for 7, 0 for 3 from three. Did have 9 rebounds, 5 points. He was +2 in this game. Game Magic lost by 12. He's +2. Cole Anthony's +6. Magic's bench did a good job. Mo Wagner, 17 points, 7 for 7 shooting, 6 rebounds from him. The Magic got to maximize their best players at this point. And so if necessity is the mother of invention, Jonathan Isaac's got to play, and the Magic got to play Jonathan Isaac as much as their doctors will let them get away with it at this point. And that's how it should be in the playoffs too, by the way. We're at the point now where you're going to have rest between every game. There's no more back-to-backs now. You're home on Sunday. I don't want to say baby Jonathan Isaac, but because I don't think that's what's going on, but you've got to maximize and stretch and make the most of those minutes. And if Wendell Carter can't go, and I would agree with starting Wendell Carter if he can go, Jonathan Isaac, you got to have a quick trigger to say we need defense. Jonathan Isaac's going in because every defense works better with Jonathan Isaac. Let's get to other players here. Philadelphia just made threes. Honestly, Joel Embiid's 4 for 7. Tyrese Maxey's 5 for 10. They made threes. I'm not losing sleep. And look, an 18 to 8 3-point difference is big. I'm not losing sleep if the Magic lose that way. They got 60 points in the paint. That's usually a formula. They outscored Philadelphia 60 to 46 in the paint. And obviously 3-pointers make up for that. That's usually a formula for a win. They had 15 fast break points to Philadelphia's 10. Philadelphia's 2 for 5 on fast breaks. There are a lot of things in this game that are usually elements to a win. And the difference is Joel Embiid attracts 2-3 guys to him, bends your defense completely out of shape. And the Magic it took them a quarter and a half to figure out how to defend the 3-point line. And even in the third quarter, they lost it a little bit too. And so that's, again, we'll be, we can all be real about it. We've been saying it all year, and it's been proven true throughout the course of the season. The Magic, have the worst offense in the league among postseason-bound teams, all 20 teams that are going to the postseason. They need shooting, and they need more reliable shooting, because when you look at the shooting list, it gets dark early. Jalen Suggs, 20 points, 7 for 12 shooting, 3 for 6 from 3, 3 for 6 from the foul line 2. Suggs continues to play with incredible heart and incredible intensity. That guy is ready for the playoffs. I know there's been some people criticizing a question that I asked him. I went back and listened to it actually today, saying he's so excited for the playoffs. Everyone's looking forward to it. It feels ominous listening. As he said this Sunday, it feels ominous listening back to it now. But Jalen Suggs is ready for the playoffs. That dude is playing so hard and really playing well, and it's just throwing his body all over the place. He looked like he got a hip stinger in this one, trying to intercept a pass. That dude is built for the playoffs. He has stepped up. I got to give him his credit there. Franz Wagner back in the lineup, so desperately needed, helped this team so much. They just play a lot better with Franz Wagner. 24 points, 9 for 18 shooting, 5 for 5 from the foul line, 6 rebounds. He was awesome. Just getting to the basket, just getting into creases, doing Franz Wagner things. And we didn't get into the details of what actually happened in the game. Orlando got the deficit down to 2 late in the second quarter when Embiid left the game with an apparent knee injury to the same knee, took a bad step, kind of fell awkwardly and had to go back to the locker room. Magic cut it down to 2 right before the half. Philadelphia finished with 5 straight to close the half, led by 7 at the half. Philadelphia came back, Embiid came back, extended that lead back out. Orlando cut it to 7 midway through the fourth quarter. And a lot of it was just like great effort and great intensity and pace. Great defense too, by the way. And then Maxey scored 7 straight. 2 of them were really tough shots. One of them came off an offensive rebound, 3 baskets. And that was pretty much the game. Orlando was down 14. I think they got it to 9 one more time, but it's just not enough time for them to make a comeback. So Wagner was a big part of both of those runs, big part of like getting the Magic back into this game. Okay, the guy you want me to talk about, Paolo Banchero. And in a lot of ways, I think Paolo did a lot of really good things. We'll get to the big thing that he didn't do, but 22 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. If I just said that stat line to you, you'd probably say like, I'd like the points to be a little bit higher, but that's a really solid game. Like he stepped up. Like he knew he didn't have his shot going early. Like he missed a couple shots, got frustrated with a few non-calls, and then he just started passing. And he just started finding guys and just trying to loosen up the defense for himself by getting others involved first. Because again, Philadelphia was sending 3 to the ball on him all night long. They were not concerned with any of the Magic shooters. They were not concerned when Wendell Carter went out. They were not concerned with Goga Bitadze. Paolo got 2 quick assists to Wendell Carter right off the jump to get the Magic's first 4 points, like both for dunks. Like I think maybe Suggs had the first one, but Paolo was looking to find guys in the dunker spot because he knew he was attracting so much attention. So I got to, before we get to what went wrong, I've got to give Paolo credit. I think for the most part, he sought out good shots. He wasn't trying to force his offense until the fourth quarter, really. He understood maybe that his shot wasn't going down, that he was seeing a lot of attention, and he worked to get others involved. I think he only had 2 turnovers in this game. So it wasn't like he was throwing the ball all over the place. I think that's a really mature thing from him. And it's why I'm still so very, very high on him. I've said this to a few people. I think I would rather teach a player to be selfish. I think I'd rather teach an unselfish player to be selfish than a selfish player to be unselfish, if that makes sense. Because the instinct for a selfish player is always going to be selfish. The instinct for an unselfish player is always going to be to get others involved. And that's ultimately going to help the team. But bottom line, this is a big game. The Magic needed a big performance from Paolo, and they got it in some respects. But he shoots just 7 for 24 from the floor. He misses 3 free throws. Jalen Suggs missed three free throws too. Those were the 6 misses for the Magic. They were 19 for 25 from the foul line. Paolo just missed too many shots. And some of them were bunnies. Some of them were shots where he lost the ball, where players stripped him as he was going up. Some of them were, just jumpers that he missed. Again, I don't think he took bad shots. He was 2 for 6 from 3. I don't love it when Paolo takes more than 5 threes. I think 3 or 4 is probably the right number for him. But I didn't hate many of his shots. They just didn't go in. And we're at the stage where the results matter. And so I saw some people saying Paolo didn't step up. He didn't step up in that the result didn't turn out the way it needed to turn out. And, Paolo didn't make shots. If that's not stepping up, then sure, he didn't step up. I like the shots that he took. I like the thought process of how he attacked the game until the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, he started forcing some stuff, and you could see him getting exasperated. He needs help. And it's not help in terms of other scores, because Franz and Jalen both scored plenty. It's help in that your best shooter, Gary Harris, in the biggest game of the year was 1 for 5 from 3 and 1 for 8 overall. Only 3 points. Jalen Suggs hit 3 for 6. Franz Wagner was 1 for 4. The Magic need shooting. You look at Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid makes threes on his own, but Tyrese Maxey was 5 for 10. Kyle Lowry 1 for 1. Kelly Oubre was 2 for 7. Tobias Harris 1 for 2. Buddy Hield coming off the bench 2 for 4. Nicholas Batum 1 for 3. The Sixers made shots. And again, I know a lot of people hate the make or miss league moniker, but It's so true. And so, like, I'm not like, I'm upset that they lost. I'm not upset with the effort. I'm not upset with the process of this loss. But it came down to the Magic were not intense enough and intent enough on stopping the shooters early, just like they were in the loss to Charlotte last week. They were not intense enough to stop the shooters. And Philadelphia got hot. And Orlando's just not a team that's built to come back. They're not, as currently constructed. Next year, they need shooting. Jalen Suggs needs to have a repeat of this season as a shooter. Franz Wagner needs to bounce back with his three-point shooting. Just those two things alone are going to help this team tremendously. And then adding, if the Magic keep Gary Harris, I'm not going to be upset if the Magic keep Gary Harris. I just don't want him starting. I don't think he should be a full-time starter anymore. But adding a shooter in that slot is going to go such a long way to just spreading the floor and making Paolo's life easier and allowing him to have big games in these moments. Philadelphia did a great job slowing him down and making him think and just putting bodies in his way. And that's something the Magic couldn't do consistently against Embiid. It was not something they could do consistently defensively. And that's why they're losing these games. Again, that's why they don't measure up for the playoffs. All these teams can throw 3, sometimes 4 bodies at Paolo and not pay the consequence for that. When Orlando did that to Philadelphia punished them. Orlando, I wouldn't say Orlando executed their defensive game plan great, but they weren't terrible at it. The intention was right. The intensity and effort was right. But Philadelphia made Orlando pay for the extra attention they had to give to Embiid. And that's the difference between the two teams. That's why Philadelphia is going to be in the playoffs, is a title contender, not just because Embiid is so good. Everything works perfectly to make the star's life easier so he can decide essentially he can decide when to go on his big scoring binge. Paolo doesn't have that. Franz Wagner doesn't have that. They need that support, and that's what's got to come this offseason. Again, there's nothing internally to fix this. This is who the Magic team are. Orlando cannot fall behind by double digits in the first quarter. They are not built to come back. They have in the past. They have done it, obviously, but that's not in high-intensity games like this. That's not how they're built to play. And if that's the lesson we got to learn this year, that's the lesson we got to learn this year. The Orlando Magic fall to the Philadelphia 76ers 125-113. Just one game left against the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to go over every scenario that you need to know for Sunday's game. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball now in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. The #1 question that I got after everyone kind of calmed down from the loss, especially after the results on Friday, what do the Magic need to do now to make sure that they're in the playoffs? What are the scenarios? Well, after I finished writing, I did go through every scenario. I'll write this up on Online Magic Daily if you need it more visually. But here's the deal. The Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the Indiana Pacers. That did two things. First, it locks the Magic out from being a top 4 seed. Orlando cannot catch Cleveland. Cleveland has clinched a playoff spot. They have clinched a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Magic cannot catch them. It also did one other thing. Indiana's loss means the Magic still control their own destiny to make the playoffs. That is the big piece of this puzzle. So simplifying everything, because I'm a big believer that simple is better. Simplifying everything. If the Orlando Magic win on Sunday, if they take care of their business like we have been saying they need to do all week long, if the Magic beat the Milwaukee Bucks, who, by the way, will need that game. They are the 2 seed. They are currently, I believe, tied with the New York Knicks. They own the tiebreaker over the Knicks, but 1 game ahead of the Cavs. Knicks play, who do the Knicks play? I don't remember now. I don't remember who they play now. Because the Bulls. The Knicks play the Bulls in a game that does not mean anything for anybody, ESPN. They're going to be there instead of in Orlando, which is probably where they should be. If they watch a game that actually matters and has 2 teams trying hard, which, Knicks will probably be trying hard. They want to win, so we'll see. But the Knicks need that win. The Knicks can still catch the Knicks, and then the Cavs play the Hornets, I believe. Those 2 teams obviously have a chance to catch Milwaukee for the 2 seed. I'm not going to get into what their tie-breaking scenarios are because it doesn't matter for us. The point is, Milwaukee's loss means Milwaukee needs to win Sunday too. So both Orlando and Milwaukee have a lot to play for on Sunday afternoon at the Kia Center. Bad loss for the Bucks against the Thunder. So a lot on the line at the Kia Center on Sunday. Again, I'll repeat this again. Bottom line, because the Pacers lost to the Cavs, the Magic control their own destiny for the playoffs. If Orlando wins on Sunday, they clinch the Southeast Division Championship and they clinch a spot in the playoffs proper. They'll be the 5 or the 6 seed in that case. Let's get complicated. Let's get to the complicated part. Okay. Orlando win over Milwaukee actually makes things really, really simple. The Orlando Magic, as Southeast Division champions with a win any 3-way tie with the Indiana Pacers and Philadelphia 76ers. The first tiebreaker in a 3-way tie is division champion. That's why we still track the division championship. It's important. Orlando, with their loss and Miami's win over Toronto, have a 1-game lead over the Heat. The Heat own the tiebreaker. So the Magic have to win or the Heat have to lose for the Magic to clinch the Southeast Division. If the Magic lose, the Heat win the Southeast Division. We'll get to how complicated that gets here in a minute. The Orlando Magic will be the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference if the Magic win and the Pacers win. Magic win, Pacers win. We are Pacers fans against the Hawks for the most part, if the Magic win. The reason for this is the Magic own the tiebreaker with the Pacers. So if the Pacers win and the Sixers lose, then the Pacers are tied with the Magic. Magic own the tiebreaker. They advance. If the Magic win, the Pacers win, the Sixers win, they all have 46 wins. They're all tied right now in the standings, 46 and 35. They're all tied. Orlando wins that 3-way tiebreaker over Philadelphia and Indiana as division champions, makes them the 5 seed. They'll play whoever the 4 seed is. I'm not going to get into who that could be quite yet. The Orlando Magic win and are the 6th seed if the Pacers lose to the Hawks, and the Hawks are locked in to the 10, I believe. They might be the 9. I don't know. I don't actually know what they are, but they're locked into whatever seed they're in. And Philadelphia defeats Brooklyn. And the reason for that is Philadelphia won the season series 3-0. So if Orlando and Philadelphia are tied, Philadelphia jumps over Orlando. So if you look at the standings right now, because all the 3 teams have the same record, Orlando is ahead in 5th because of that tiebreaker, because they're the Southeast Division leaders right now. So again, Orlando wins, Indiana wins, Orlando's 5th. Orlando wins, Indiana loses, Philadelphia wins, Orlando's 5th. Obviously, if Orlando wins, Indiana loses, Philadelphia loses, Orlando's 5th too. Orlando wins, Indiana loses, Philadelphia wins, Orlando's 6th because Philadelphia owns the tiebreaker 3-0 season series against Orlando. Got it? That's the simple stuff. Again, Orlando wins, they're in. They're 5 or 6. Can't be anything else. That's the simple stuff. Great. Got it. Things get complicated if they lose. Again, things get very complicated if they lose. First off, to win the Southeast Division, Orlando if Orlando loses, Orlando would need Miami to lose to Toronto. Miami destroyed Toronto by 20. South Beach is undefeated. I am not optimistic that the Magic are going to get a favorable result from the Raptors despite that 1 p.m. start. To clinch a playoff spot, a guaranteed 6 seed with a loss, the Magic would need that loss by the Raptors. They would also need a loss by the Sixers. And again, the reason is because the Sixers own the tiebreaker. We'll get into some specific instances here, but Orlando cannot clinch a 6 seed with a loss and a Sixers win. At that point, the Sixers will always be ahead of the Magic. Even if Indiana loses, let me just check that. Yeah, if Indiana loses, that would drop Orlando down to the actually Orlando lost Indiana. You know what? Now I'm questioning reality as I speak. Keep it simple. Orlando needs a Miami loss and a Philadelphia loss to guarantee the 6th seed at that point. Now, like if all 3 lose, again, a Philadelphia win means that they're ahead of them in the standings, that they're 5 at least. Orlando loss, Miami loss, Indiana loss. Orlando would beat Indiana and be the 6th. So there's that too. See, I'm figuring stuff out too. So we'll actually delete that off my sheet here. Orlando can still be the 5 seed with a loss. Essentially, if everybody loses, the standings are as they are now. Orlando's the 5 seed. Indiana loses to Atlanta, Philadelphia loses to Brooklyn, Miami loses to Toronto. It doesn't matter what happens. Orlando will be the 5 seed, because they can't pass them. Orlando wins the division. All's good. Orlando is the 6th seed if Indiana loses. Orlando is the 6th seed if Orlando loses. If Indiana loses, Philadelphia wins, Miami loses. Miami losing is the key to everything. Now, Orlando would set up for a play-in game at the Kia Center against the Miami Heat if Orlando loses, Miami loses, and Indiana and Philadelphia both win. If Indiana and Philadelphia both win, they're both ahead of the Magic in the standings. They take 5, they take 6. Orlando drops to 7. Miami losing means they host Miami for the play-in tournament. Obviously, it's kind of the opposite, but it's the opposite. The Magic would be the 8th seed, travel to Miami. If that happens, if Indiana wins, Philadelphia wins, and Miami wins. So if it's all bad results and Orlando loses, Orlando's the 8th. We're going to Miami on Tuesday. The Orlando can lose and still get the 7th seed as well if Indiana loses, Philadelphia wins, and Miami wins. If that happens, then Philadelphia's won, obviously, so they're ahead of both Indiana and Orlando. Miami ties Indiana and Orlando. Miami wins that tiebreaker as the 3 seed, and then Orlando beats Indiana as on the head-to-head in the 2-way tiebreaker. And so Orlando gets to host a play-in game against Indiana in that instance. So Indiana, if Orlando loses, essentially Indiana is like the protection for Orlando. For Orlando to get the most favorable seeding, they essentially need to have the same result as Indiana, assuming Philadelphia wins. Indiana's like protection for Orlando. Indiana, think of it this way. Indiana is protection for Orlando from Philadelphia. They protect Orlando from Philadelphia in every scenario, except for one. This is the chaos scenario. Well, the other scenario is obviously, we already went over that. There's one scenario though where Indiana does not protect Orlando, and that is the chaos scenario. The chaos scenario, which is very unlikely to happen, but the chaos scenario is Indiana loses, Philadelphia loses, Orlando loses, Miami wins, and all 4 teams have 46 wins. What happens in this instance? Well, Miami gets 5th as the Southeast Division champion winner. This is the chaos scenario. But we still have a 3-way tie between Philadelphia, Indiana, and Orlando. Philadelphia has the best record among those 3 teams. 3-0 against Orlando, 1-2 against Indiana. So they're 4-2 against the Pacers. The Pacers went 2-1 against Orlando, 1-2 against Orlando, 2-1 against Philadelphia. They're 3-3. Orlando went 2-1 against the Pacers, 0-3 against Philadelphia. They're 2-4. In this instance, in this 3-way tiebreaker, Miami's 5th, Philadelphia's 6th, Indiana's 7th, Orlando's 8th, and we head to Indiana. The only way Indiana hosts a play-in tournament game against Orlando, the only way Orlando is not protected against Indiana directly, is in this chaos scenario, is in this scenario where all 4 of these teams finish with 46 wins. That is the only place where the Magic could ship out to Indianapolis at this juncture. It's unlikely to happen, but it's there. And so, when I look at this, it's really, it's quite simple. To me, if Orlando wins, they're probably going to be the 5 seed. And they'll get a date with Cleveland. They'll get a date with Milwaukee, or they'll get a date with Milwaukee, Cleveland, or New York. Certainly, you could maybe make some conspiracy theory that Milwaukee, it might be in Milwaukee's best interest to, I don't want to say throw, but play this game to set up a first round matchup with Orlando. That might be the most favorable first round. The Magic might be the first round matchup everyone wants. Nobody wants Philly. Milwaukee probably doesn't want Indiana. If Milwaukee loses to Orlando on Sunday, more likely than not, because Cleveland's playing Charlotte and New York's playing Chicago, which has nothing to play for, Milwaukee would set up in a 4-5 against Orlando, and we ship up to Milwaukee, and that would be great. We'd see what happened. They'd avoid Miami, they'd avoid Philadelphia, they'd get out of the first round. The only downside to that is you play Boston in the second round, and so maybe that's something they want, maybe that's something they don't want. We'll see. We'll see what they do. But that is definitely very much in play Sunday. If the Bucks decide the 2 seed isn't worth that much, they got to beat Boston on the road anyway. Let's make sure we get out of the first round. If Orlando is the team that we think we can beat the most. I don't know. I don't know how they feel about that. Maybe we'll ask our friends at Locked On Bucks about that. If Orlando loses, they are probably heading to Miami for the play-in tournament. That would be my guess. They're probably heading to Miami Tuesday night. And that's essentially what's on the line. You're the 5 seed or the 8 seed. I honestly don't see it any other way. I think the Orlando-Milwaukee game is really the only one that's kind of the toss-up at this moment. I think that Indiana will probably beat Atlanta. I'm sure Trae Young will play a little bit just to keep him back in rhythm. I think Philadelphia's going to be Brooklyn. I think Miami's going to be Toronto. I think we're the only toss-up game. And so the Magic win on Sunday. We're ahead to the playoffs. We're probably going as a 5 seed. Orlando loses. We got a date Tuesday in Miami. I'll be driving or taking the train down there, and we'll see where the chips fall in the play-in tournament. That's what's on the line Sunday. That's all the scenarios that I have written down. If I missed one, let me know. But we're here. End of the road. No, not the end of the road, but we're here. End of the season, end of the regular season. Everything on the line for this team. So much that this team has accomplished. Potentially going down the drain, or, again, let's think of it this way. The Magic have to win one of their next 3 games. All they have to do is win one of their next 3 games, and they're going to the playoffs. And someone joked with me, well, that's great, but they've won only one of their last 5. And yeah, that's a problem. But, we'll see what happens Sunday at the Kia Center. And that's my reminder to you. I know I've gone really long tonight, and I've got to get to bed because I got to be up early in the morning, but that's my reminder to you as well. Sunday is a playoff game. This team all season long has fed off the energy at the Kia Center, has fed off the crowd, it has fed off the fans, and they need you again. This team acknowledges how important that home crowd is. And if we want a playoff series, they need you. I'm expecting a raucous Kia Center, and I'm expecting one that can power this team to victory against an undermanned Bucks team that will be without Giannis Antetokounmpo. They will probably have Chris Middleton back, but they'll be without Giannis. I believe in what this team can do. As disappointed as I think we all are with how this season is finished, I truly believe in what this team has accomplished this year, and I hate the stain that this week has put on it. I despise it. If I'm coming off a little surly online, I apologize. I despise how this week how everyone's become a prisoner of the moment. And I'm not sitting here saying don't be disappointed with what this week has represented. Absolutely be disappointed. But this team deserves adulation and recognition. It deserves this moment. And it deserves a frenzied playoff atmosphere to make sure they accomplish what we all know they're capable of accomplishing. So be that 6th man. Bring the energy Sunday afternoon. We will be back here Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LockedOnMagic. Just search for Locked On Magic on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you already know where it is. We will go live at 8 o'clock to talk about that game and the playoffs ahead. And it will be the playoffs. I'll sit here and say it. It'll be the playoffs. That's what this is all about now. All this other stuff doesn't matter. Take care of your business. Your business will take care of you. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter @OMagicDaily. Be sure to check out my Patreon page as well, patreon.com/OrlandoMagicHub. We'll have keys to the Magic's game against the Bucks up early on the site on Saturday. I'm going to post all the clinching scenarios as well as on OrlandoMagicDaily.com, so you have it in written visual form to maybe help you out. But we'll see what happens. Now that you've listened to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube as well as on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7. Covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will see you all Sunday at 8 p.m. I'll get my big board out. We'll lay out the whole playoffs. We'll lay out the whole path forward. It's going to be a wild Sunday afternoon. So rest up Saturday. I'm not going to be able to because I got to get up early here, but rest up Saturday. Don't talk so much. We need those voices. And let's get to it Sunday afternoon at the Kia Center against the Milwaukee Bucks. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.